you alright, Sharia? Can you stand?
If only Asbel could be this kind.
Tales of Graces originally released for the Wii in 2009, though it was only released in Japan. Following fan demand to see the game on a platform outside the Wii, Tales of Graces was later brought to PS3 as Tales of Graces F, coming with a new epilogue in 2010, and then localized overseas in 2012. Many years later, Tales of Graces F has been remastered and released worldwide in 2025. I'm happy to say right out of the gate that this is one of the best remasters for a Tales game, and frankly for Bandai Namco. The big story to this game that we'll see is about Tales of Graces' port to the PS3, and not due to new issues, but with how much was fixed from the Wii version. The Wii version's also only in Japanese, but thankfully I found the Asalia wiki was on top of things, and many Japanese players on wikis, WordPress blogs, and on Nico from 15 years ago documented things pretty well. Also thanks to Valmar for sending me saves for the Wii version, there's more I can show you with my own footage, saving me a lot of time and ensuring higher quality research. This video is also made possible by my patrons and YouTube members. Over the last few weeks, I've uploaded a few videos for them documenting my research, such as going through all the videos on Nico. So if you're interested in anything behind the scenes on my videos, you should check it out. So let's get into it with that original Wii release of Tales of Graces. After the initial release, the game was recalled due to severe bugs, oversights, and typos, and Bandai Namco would send you a replacement disc. Not everything was patched, but most things were. The bugs range from harmless to destructive in multiple ways, most of which prevent you from collecting all items, titles, skits, and costumes. In New Game Plus, if you choose to carry over books and have the Amarcian key in your discovery book, then you can't obtain the Amarcian key again, locking you out of an optional late game dungeon and all of its items, as well as skits, titles, and Pascal's swimsuit. If you choose to not carry over books, then you'll find that the stat for the number of people you've spoken to will not increase from anyone you talk to in your first playthrough. So in New Game Plus, this locks you out of some titles for Pascal tied to talking to enough people. If you start a New Game Plus carrying over titles without carrying over skills while auto title is set to until mastered, the game will crash when going to change the setting, resulting in that iconic sound. If you play as Sophie at the start of the game and use First Aid in a fight, it pops up a tutorial for B-Arts. If you put the Book of Frugality in the Elif mixer, it'll fully restore if you do not meet the spellbook's proc. Now, there's way more exploits or detrimental bugs than the ones that are shown off in these videos, such as some item duping, soft locking puzzles, or an inaccessible Asbel title tied to seeing all enemies due to one not being accessible. But out of anything for the Wii version, this is my favorite one, and it wasn't even fixed in the updated Japanese revision. So Asbel can use his most recently used art again while blocking with his sword unsheathed. So in this example, Asbel uses Demon Fang, starts blocking, goes into the menu to unmap Demon Fang, unpauses, presses B, and Demon Fang still comes out. Now this is broken because you can set this up in a way where it applies to Mystic Arts, so you can repeat a Mystic Art consecutively, which have so much hit stun to them since you're never supposed to be able to repeat them like this, and you will have enemies and even bosses stun locked. The last big note here is Common Merchant. This was a compatible DS download play game that was a dungeon crawler with randomly generated dungeons. You could earn rewards for Tales of Graces on Wii, and your progress in Graces would open up more levels for the DS game. And what's cool about this game too is that you could download it from the DSiWare store to play without Tales of Graces. Unfortunately, this never made it beyond the DSi or Wii. Lastly, what we'll keep in mind for the other versions is that the Wii version is 30 FPS outside of battle and 60 FPS in battle. Now next up is Tales of Graces F for the PS3. The F stands for Future and represents the new epilogue added that takes place 6 months after the game's ending, that includes multiple new dungeons, monsters, music, dialogue, and characters. They also took advantage of the opportunity to re-record some voice lines in Japanese for plot reasons.
Tomodachi nanda? Tomodachi! Nanda, tomodachi?
Almost all of the Wii version's DLC is either included in the base game or, for licensed content, remains DLC on PS3 except Sharia's boa costume, who's the artist for the game's opening theme, so this costume never left the Wii version. The other licensed costumes that made it include Idolmaster and Miku. The Wii version also had more DLC codes, but those item sets were obtainable in-game anyway. Then the PS3 version has more of its own DLC, including Japan-exclusive stuff like a bunch of holiday skits, as well as licensed costumes including for Dot Hack, Code Geass, and Toro the Sony Cat mascot. However, that's all delisted now anyway, so you can't buy any DLC for the PS3 version now if you didn't already. The opening theme of the game is not only retained, which is already great to see for these games, but it's Boa singing it too in English herself. Costume attachments were introduced and there's new Magic Carta cards. This green pipe Mario reference was turned gray, though the reference remains in the skit for the pipe.
Look at all the shiny little coins at the bottom.
The Great Shop had adjusted bonuses and costs too. The one for retaining turtles for the DS game is gone, but there's two new things in the Great Shop: Skip Childhood and Inherit Magic Carta cards. The most significant gameplay addition is Excel mode. They're unlocked during the epilogue for each character and can be brought into New Game Plus of the main game via titles. It's a meter you can activate when it's half full, and each character has their own unique traits when they pop it, like Sophie gains a forward dash to cross up enemies, or like Asbel spawns a ball around him. There's also new mystic arts that can only be used during Excel mode. Outside of the unique traits, anyone that pops it will refill their HP and CC and cure any status ailments, as well as make you invulnerable and instantly cast a spell if you are casting one when activated. Grace's F also features new equipment, gem effects, and titles. Some prior titles also had their requirements reduced to save time on how long they would take you to get. Moreover, many aspects were rebalanced among arts and equipment, some which were noted by Japanese players. So for example, some of Asbel's B arts have more recovery frames to prevent them from being able to fire off as fast. Some of these Asbel arts also now change when you use them consecutively. Hubert was buffed in that his weapons all have one more minimum CC, and there's a few changes that affect everyone. Free run doesn't need to be unlocked anymore, and the replacement for it in the titles is HP regen when evading. Moreover, when you exploit enemy weaknesses, you'll now be rewarded with CC and refilled Elif. The max amount of CC on Wii was 20 and now it's 30. Also, hard difficulty was made harder, and it seems equal to the Wii version's evil difficulty. When weapons are tempered up to plus 30, 60, 90, and 99, they will now have their minimum CC increased by 1. Books were buffed across the board. For example, the ones that have your stats no longer have accuracy as well. Before, costumes were tied to their required titles, so you had to equip the title for the costume. Now the costumes are unlocked at rank 3 of the titles, and they are equipped in a separate menu, so you can have different titles while using any other costume. Missable monsters don't have soul orbs anymore, though some certainly are much easier to get at certain points in the game. And there were a number of balance adjustments with enemies, as well as some buffed bosses, either stat-wise or being given new arts they'll use in their battles. Before, the Rakugong could be exploited in a number of ways. You can still exploit it for farming gold, but the fight doesn't drop XP or SP anymore, and a time limit has been added. Related to that, there were a number of locales in the game where you could idle with the B button held down to farm whatever you needed, like experience, art uses, or gold, because enemies would infinitely respawn. So now enemies just don't respawn anymore, at least in the known locations. The Desert Ruin puzzles now have a limited amount of moves per puzzle. SP rewards from in-quests were increased, a boat was added to get to the other side of Uliberte faster, bonus conditions for battles are now always on screen, superior qualities from dualizing are now yellow, and you now get a notification when Marion finishes polishing a gem. There were multiple exploits to combat, minor and major, that have been patched now, including the bug with Asbel's arts. A minor example would be that tutorial battles before never ended until you did what you had to do, which let you farm art uses on enemies with infinite HP. The game has a higher resolution, and the art style already lends itself nicely to being upscaled. On the surface, many things look pretty identical, though when we really come through environments closely, there were a number of assets that we'll see were tweaked more than just being upscaled. I did find many cases where locales were just upscaled, but there were a few standout locales shown here. The frame rate targets remain the same as well, so outside of battle it's still 30, and in battle it is 60, which is more consistent now than it was on Wii. And lastly, more scenes, mostly some minor ones, now have voice acting to them in this version, including a few side quests. And we're up to the last version, Tales of Grace's F Remastered. Almost all DLC that was available on the PS3 version is present with the exception of licensed costumes. Sharia's boa costume isn't here either. The remaster has some of its own DLC as well, most notable being the Battle Background Music Pack. And we mentioned the prior DLC skits that were for holidays that were only in Japanese are now voiced in English, with everyone but Sharia reprising their roles, though this is not the first time Alexis Tipton has stepped in for a role for Laura Bailey.
Hi, Sophie. Here, some chocolate for you. Because it was your favorite dish when we were all still kids. I'm sure that's why your mother included it. But then, if I wanted to get him something, what could I... Huh? What? No, I'm not. I'm fine. Let's talk about Captain Malik instead. Are you okay? You need to watch your blood pressure.
Hey,
This is really cool to see added because this is actually 30 minutes of newly recorded dialogue as well with these skits.
Oh my gosh, Aspel, the roof's leaking!
Trials of Graces is still in the game, but there are no more online rankings for it. Interestingly, the Grade Shop is available upon the first playthrough rather than at New Game Plus, with plenty of grade for you to spend. If you're unsure if you want anything here, you can take everything that can be toggled, just in case, and just disable it all immediately. Also new to the Grade Shop is halving store prices. This version is packing a lot of quality of life features. There's autosaves, you have a dash button so you don't have to get the book to run, game overs to all battles now give you the option to retry the battle, you can remap buttons, there's individual volume sliders, there's subtitles for Mystic Arts and post-battle dialogue, and you can forward through skit dialogue. There's other nice features like an optional destination icon and an option to disable encounters. There's now an hourglass icon for missable events that are currently available. It's not optional, though there aren't many of these events to begin with. We can find visually updated parts of the game if we look around close enough, though really across the board the art style of the original game has been retained since the Wii. The most notable thing I've seen is updated ambient occlusion and this color grading haze by the top in some places. We've seen this in some remasters on the channel before, though it's more subtle here and the game's still much sharper than it was on PS3. Some color-based puzzles in the game were already colorblind friendly thanks to having patterns on them. The remaining color-based puzzles are now colorblind friendly as well. And the hardest ones in the game that require mixing colors and already had patterns on them back on Wii added an option to just have Pascal do them for you. So now let's talk some specs. The PS5 and Xbox Series X are 4K 60, PS4 Pro and Xbox Series S and Xbox One X are 1440p 60, PS4, Xbox One and Xbox One S are 1080p 60. PlayStation has an upgrade option and Xbox has smart delivery. The Switch version is 1080p 30 docked and 720p 30 undocked. These specs currently remain the same on Switch 2 as of July 2025. I've seen many people report the Switch version has discernible input latency, and I'm inclined to agree, and unfortunately it's not any more responsive on Switch 2. It's largely due to the menus still being locked to 30 FPS. Not everyone is sensitive to it, so it may not matter to some, but if it's the type of thing that would put you off, it may still do so playing on Switch 2. Undocked, the render resolution is still 720 as well, so it's a fair bit blurrier, though the UI remains sharp. If the stars align, the input latency and blurry undocked render scale could warrant a patch to be worked on, but we'll have to wait and see. The game runs fantastic on Steam Deck, though you are advised to force the game to 16:9, because set to 16:10 at the screen's native aspect ratio, the UI is fine, but the game is squished. I found the PC version's performance pretty great, and though it lacks graphics options, it can at least be turned up to 120 FPS. Time has unfortunately claimed a lot of the unique aspects to the Wii and PS3 versions, so as far as what is accessible out of the box, the remaster brings the most, especially in English. There's fun to be had with the Wii version's bugs, though too novel for a whole playthrough, and Grace's F brings so much in quality of life, a whole new combat mechanic for endgame, and an entire epilogue. The remaster certainly helps you know exactly where to go, which isn't necessary, they've always told you what to do next, but having the exact direction now is nice. In the immediately available Grade Shop even makes Grace's F Remastered a nice option if you've already played the game before. Getting to see the entire game at a higher frame rate is great too for the remaster, though the Switch version being the only version of the game to be locked at 30 at all times is a shame, but hopefully, maybe, that'll change with the Switch 2 update. Here's hoping. And that's all for this one. As of right now, I'll be back with Xenoblade X for my next port review, and until next time, thank you for watching.